Hey there, Guy. Let's wait a little bit more minutes to see if more people join. A few more minutes, and then we get started.
Hey, Julio. Hi, everyone.
Hey there. Just giving some more 2 minutes to see who else will join, and then we get started.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Morning, afternoon. What is it?
It's the middle of my day, at least.
Middle of your day. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, Portugal.
Okay, then. So maybe I think we can get started. Yeah, nice to have you, Ash, being so late in the night to join us. It's an honor. Yeah, so the topic of today is tokenomics, and yeah, because we are using seeds. Seeds is a token, and then me and Apostle, we came together to organize a kind of not too technical, but conceptual presentation of what a token is and the kinds of thinking that you have to do when you're dealing with tokens. So I kind of prepared a very limited kind of presentation just to assist with the discussion. So let me share my screen. Oops. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so we are talking about tokenomics, what that means. It's token design. And what is a token? That's the first thing that people ask, because that's something that everyone's talking about tokens now, but what is a token after all? So I like to think about tokens as these game markers, artifacts that you can use in a game to map, some sort of information flow, how many lives you have left, how many cards you have. So all kinds of artifacts you can use in a game, they are usually called tokens also. And so in essence, when we go to the blockchain, we use these tokens as cryptographic, immutable things that we can use to map reality, information in reality. So it can be used to map currency, it can be used to map resources, it can be used to map reputation. A whole lot of stuff can be mapped into these tokens. But if you want to think about it, think about just a regular artifact. Maybe it's a number, a special number that marks one bit of information and that you can track. So, and then the most interesting thing we did with tokens on blockchain is mapping currencies. And I like to see currencies in a different way. That's the definition from the guys from Arthur Brock and the MetaCurrency guys, where I worked with Holochain in the past. And I really like this definition of currency as a current, a current of a flow, like a flow of resources, a flow of information. And a currency is something that allows you to see that current. That's why it's currency. I like that way of thinking. So when you want to design a token or a currency, you have to think of many parts of the full life cycle of this currency. How is it created? When is it created? Why and how? So this is all we have to think about: the issuance of the currency, how it comes into the world, how it comes into existence. And then what kind of transactions are allowed? So what can you do with that currency? Who can use it? In what way? So what are the possible types of transactions that you can do with the currency? Is there any taxes? Is there any restriction on who can do transactions? And any limits? So that's all you have to think when you're thinking about the transactions in the life cycle of the currency. And then, of course, there is the part of conversion, right? Because sometimes the currency can be converted into other currencies. It's a special kind of transaction, but is a transaction that kind of removes currency from the flow and add another kind of currencies. So these are the relationships to other currencies. So, and then maybe this currency can enable another one, or maybe another currency can enable this one. Where is the relationship between this currency and the other ones? And then, of course, the last part of the life cycle is the redemption and retirement. It's kind of the death of the currency. And how do you retire currency from existence? Does it expire? Does it get retired? Can it be redeemed for something else? Then it's a kind of a conversion too, but maybe redeemed for some actual real life goods or maybe services. So it's very important to think about all these steps when you are creating a token, when you are creating a currency, and then this will really impact how you see how the token will function. And then what I brought here are a few concepts that we see on the Seeds ecosystem in Discord here and there, and people talking about. And I want to clarify some of these concepts so we can be kind of talking the same language. So what is the difference between limited supply versus dynamic supply for a token? So when I say limited supply, this indicates that there is only a handful of tokens. There is only, for instance, 1 million. I don't know if everyone here knows, but in seeds, we have 3.14, well, it's the pi number, billion seeds. That's the current amount in existence. And that for now, that's not going to be changed. So there is only this amount, and this amount of seeds is distributed into many accounts according to the game design, to the seeds guide. So there are a few accounts that have a bunch of those seeds. So whenever you have a limited supply token, you have to really be careful where do you want to share these tokens, so to which accounts, because once this is done, you won't be able to create any more tokens. So that's all that will be in existence. Of course, seeds is a two-phase currency. So for now, it's limited supply, but in the future, it will have a dynamic supply. And what is a dynamic supply? A dynamic supply means that the token can have more currency be created into existence after the initial creation. So for seeds, the idea is that we keep the limited supply until it reaches maturity. And then when we do the go live event, we start generating more seeds with a process known as the harvest. And that's the only way that new seeds are going to be spawned into existence. So this is very important. When you have a dynamic supply, you really want to be careful on how these tokens are going to be created and when. Otherwise, people will lose trust in the token. So if you say anyone can create more, we can just create more. So there will be, if too many people have too many of the token, then suddenly you have inflation going on and people with a lot of currency to spend, and then the prices start to rise. So it has to be very carefully designed in order to keep confidence in the currency, because currency and money is confidence, is trust. So if you don't trust the currency, it will certainly go away. And that's why it's very important to have sound white paper or guide or game guide document explaining how the currency works, so people can trust, especially when you use blockchain. These contracts, the way the currency works is coded into the blockchain, so no one can change this from one time to the next unless they do what they call a fork, and we're going to see more about that in a minute. I'm going to do a short break to see if there is any questions so far. I see some questions in the chat. No. Is it cool for now, or any questions? Yeah? Okay. Let's go on then, and we go get questions at the end. It's not too long. So, okay, so what is this staking? We hear staking here and there and burning tokens. These are all belonging in the tokenomics where you imply how do you use the token. And one way to use the token, and the most common way, is burning the token. That means I'm spending the token and it's no longer existing. So if I burn the token, no one can have the token anymore. For instance, I can burn tokens well, actually, when you plant seeds today, it's a way of burning seeds in essence. Actually, it's going to be planted, and you can unplant the seeds also. But the idea is that when you plant, they are taken out from circulation, and then when you unplant, they are being brought back into existence. So burning, in a way, is when you you spend those tokens in a way that you can't bring them back unless you have another issuance. So you could argue maybe planting is not actually burning in this sense because you can get them back. There is a plan in the seeds guide to allow people to burn seeds to do many great things. For instance, to advertise services in the ecosystem, and maybe to some. One way to burn tokens in seeds is actually when you submit a referendum or a campaign, you actually have to pay some tokens that are going to be burned. If the referendum passes or the campaign passes, sometimes you get the tokens back, but if they don't pass, the tokens are actually burned. So less seeds are in existence when they are burned. And the other way is staking. Staking is almost like betting. You kind of take some of your tokens and you put them on the table, or you put them in an account that or a smart contract that reserves that currencies, that amount of currency, and that is locked as long as it's staked. So it means like you usually stake tokens when you really want something to happen. It's almost like betting on something. So I really like this thing, so I'm staking my tokens there. And usually when you stake tokens, it takes some time to get them back if you want to unstake them. So actually, planting is much more like staking, because when you plant seeds, they become unavailable for you. And that means I trust seeds, I want seeds to succeed, and I'm going to plant some that are going to become unavailable for me because I really trust this ecosystem and I want it to grow. So then my seeds become staked or planted, and I actually get benefits from that. Besides getting a planting score, I also get more transaction power. I can do more transactions with seeds. And so staking usually has some benefits. What else? Escrow accounts. So escrow accounts is similar in a way to staking, but staking is individual. So you stake your tokens, they are staking for you. But escrow account is an account that will reserve your tokens for later. It's now almost like the piggy bank. You store the tokens there, the currency there, but when you really need it, you have to break the pig, or you really need to do some special condition to get the tokens back. But as long as they are in escrow, you can't get them back unless a specific condition happens. So it's a way to kind of prevent you from accessing your tokens that you shouldn't be having access to. For instance, when you want to buy something from someone, these people have a product or service that you're going to get. So usually you stake, you put the tokens in an escrow account until you receive the product. And when you receive the product, you say, yeah, I got the product. And then the money from the escrow account is sent to the person. So it's like an intermediate account that holds the tokens for a transaction for you. So in a way, it's different, of course, from staking, because you can't get them back unless a specific condition happens. For instance, suppose you are buying a product and then the person didn't deliver the product after a timeout, and then the money that's in the escrow account is returned to you, but only in this condition. So there is a very specific condition for how to use the escrow account. So one example of escrow account in seeds is what we call the D seeds, or deferred seeds. Those are seeds that are reserved for the future, so after go live. So they are stored in this escrow account, and we only be able to access them when the go live event happens. And then the harvest will start generating or unfreezing the seeds from the deferred seeds account into your own accounts. So in a gradual way. This is according to the game guide. So the idea is that the deferred seeds is a way for people to have trust in the ecosystem and have some currency to be redeemable later. So it's a strategy to allow people to participate and trust the currency. Another thing, airdrop. What is an airdrop? So an airdrop is a strategy to launch a currency where you want a few people to have the currency. Of course, if no one has your currency, you're not going to be able to use it. So it's not going to be worth anything. So one way to create currency is to just deploy currency everywhere around the planet. For instance, creating a link, like in Bitcoin, we used to have what we call faucets. It's like a faucet where you open and you get your currency. You can only use that like once a day. And there are some restrictions, but in the beginning, you could just get Bitcoin out of a faucet. There was also what we call money trees. So it was really fun in the beginning. So you could get currency from the money tree. And so an airdrop method is like that. You create a strategy for people to get your currency in a very controlled way, of course, but in a way that they can do this on their own. They don't need a lot of intervention. So Seeds did not choose this path. We actually chose to use the invitation as a way to distribute seeds and to create the trust network. Because the problem with airdrops is that you don't know who is getting the currency. So anyone can get it, and people, if the currency starts to become valuable, people start to try to hack the airdrops and the faucets to get more currency just to sell it. So that is one valid strategy, but can also have damaging effects on the reputation of the currency. So it has to be used with a lot of care in order for that to work. And the other famous word we've been hearing a lot on Seeds recently is forking. So what is forking anyway? So forking comes from software developing. Actually, when we develop software, there is the code for the software that's a piece of code. It's like a text that says how the software is going to work, and this is all stored in a repository online usually. So usually most of the software today is stored on what we call the repository called GitHub. And so that repository allows people to, of course, change and evolve the software according to one flow. But eventually, some people decide that the software should follow another path. So they don't like where the direction of the software, the way it's going right now. And since most of this software is open source, meaning that anyone can see and read how the software works, they can decide to reshape the software, and fork it means to go in another way on the road. So instead of going to the right, now we decide to go left. And from now on, the changes are not going to be necessarily compatible to the other version of the fork. And since cryptocurrency is, in essence, is also software, we can also fork currencies. That means we can change the software that currency runs on, like creating a new version of the smart contract. That is, all currencies, in essence, are smart contracts. That means they are a piece of software that's stored in a blockchain. And then when you decide to fork a currency, usually the that will implicate that something will happen with the people owning the, I mean, the other currency keeps existing to the path to the right, and the path to the left is a new currency. And that new currency can have all sorts of new features. And maybe usually the fork starts with the same users. So if you had like 1,000 or 10,000 users on the stream to the right, the same 10,000 users will also have currency on the stream to the left. But if the change on the software allows, since it's a new currency starting, you can also change people's balance. So you can change the creation of the currency, the creation event. So in the beginning, seeds, for instance, in the creation, only a few accounts had seeds. For instance, the campaign seeds account that's paying seeds to the campaigns, the alliances seeds account, the Haifa Bank. There's a few accounts that got seeds in the beginning, but now if we forked seeds, we would already have accounts with seeds in the beginning. So the accounts that already have seeds 1.0, so the seeds to the right. So if we fork, the new seeds will have this opportunity to kind of change balances or convert some of the seeds into these seeds, or the only way to change balances of currency is actually through a fork. So if you want to mess with people's money, and that's one of the great features about blockchain, because once it starts, no one can tamper with it. So no one can take your money, unless, of course, you do this kind of fork. And then fork is an opt-in thing. You have to really want to use the new version. Otherwise, you can stick to the old version and nothing changes for you. So that's very delicate. Usually has a lot of impacts to the software developers and to the community. And it has to be done with a lot of caution as well. I guess, yeah, that's the last one I have for today. It's about token sales and exchange prices. So a very nice strategy when you release or create a new currency is, of course, to sell this currency for other currencies, fiat currencies like Bitcoin or maybe US dollars or whatever, credit card money. And you really want to sell this currency to the community that's going to be using it. That's a very good way to get some funds for your project and to activate your community if people are trusting what you're promising with the currency. So this is called an initial coin offering. And it's similar in a way to an IPO in an exchange. So you are releasing your public offering of your company on the exchange or on a stock exchange, and you get new investors buying stocks from your organization, from your company. But in here, you are selling a coin or a currency. And then you create this initial currency or coin offering, and people can buy this coin, usually through a very controlled process on a website or maybe on some exchanges. Some exchanges are doing ICOs for projects as well. And that's great because sometimes if we have too many people willing to buy, that could cause delays on the website. So you have to have a good infrastructure in order to do a good one ICO. So a good strategy is to partner with exchanges or cryptocurrency exchanges over there. But you can also do it on your own, like Seeds is doing, actually. Seeds is doing its own ICO. Usually the ICO is done in an event or a single event, or maybe for a short duration, like for 2 months or 3 months, you have this window of opportunity to buy the currency like in a discount. And then after that, you have to pay full price, or you have to, there are all sorts of rules for ICOs. And that's the initial ICOs on the cryptocurrency landscape was, they were actually not very community focused. They were also actually whale focused, I would say, because we have some people that we call crypto whales, people that hold huge amount of tokens, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and they keep scanning the market for interesting opportunities for investment. And some tokens, when they do ICOs, they tend to focus to try to get money from these big investors. So they give all sorts of bonuses for people willing to buy big quantities of token or buying first. So for instance, if you buy first, you get 50% discount. Then if you buy later, you get 30%, and then later you get 10%, and then you get the full price. So there are many strategies for doing ICOs. And the token sale on the Seeds website is, in a way, it's an ICO, but it's an extended ICO that's going on, and you can buy seeds. Actually, supposedly it's going to be lasting even after go live, but after go live, it's going to be less important, since the harvest will be issuing new seeds. So the most valuable time for buying seeds is before they go live, and after that we expect the economy to be in a big shape in order to allow it to grow organically. So what is the exchange price? Who defines the price of a token? So there are many, and this is a very controversial topic, as we saw in the economics referendum that didn't pass in the last moon. So who has to have the authority to price a token? Because if there are a lot of people using the token, they can buy and sell the token for whatever they want. It's their token, of course, right? So who is going to price the token other than the owners of the token? So what currently happens on Seeds, for instance, is that Haifa currently, actually the Seeds Commons now, has the authority to set the price of the seeds sale on the website. Actually, like the ICO price, and that's the expected price, and that price can go up, and usually the idea is that it's going to go up until we reach go live. But we are not setting the actual price of the token. The price is set by those owning the token and the market, right? So if we have an exchange where people can buy and sell seeds, they can offer and buy on whatever price they want. We just wanted, in this case, to give a reference price, or a price to be used as almost like a standard price. Of course, you can use more or less on that price. So there are many strategies for setting a price, and you can just leave the market to set the price. This is also tricky somehow, because in order for the market to care about your token, you have to do other kinds of deliverables and reach a community of users before the market starts noticing your token. So there are many ways for setting the price in strategies for the price for a token sale. So that's basically what I had for today, and would love to hear questions, feedbacks, comments. Oh, there are some in the chat. Let's see. Ash has a question on increasing seeds beyond 3.14 billion. Does it require a fork to create more seeds, or is it creating new seeds already embedded into existing software? Yeah, it's already embedded, Ash. So the smart contracts on seeds we already have, the harvest contract ready. It's right now it was generating test seeds, so we can see how much is being created on the harvest, but it's not turned on yet. So, but since the tokenomics of seeds allow this, and everyone knows this is going to happen, so it's possible to create new seeds even without a fork. So, but this is the only way we are creating new seeds. Otherwise, if we allow people to just create seeds randomly, we can destroy the trust in the currency. So hopefully that clears your question. If it doesn't, please ask again. Miguel has a question too. What would be Julio's most promising approach to attract fiat crypto funds for the seeds ecosystem that allows us to bride the transition phase until we have a strong enough seeds economic, which provides the basic needs for participants? That's a very complicated question. I mean, difficult question. Yeah, so the promise of seeds gaining more value is a way to bring more investors, and because they want to see their money grow, and that's the promise of capitalism, right? If you have money, you can get more money, and that's one way to get people to invest. The other way is more like crowdfunding. So we can get people that are going to profit from the actual system to pay small amounts of money because they really like what's being proposed and they were really excited about it. And so they can invest like $10 or $100. And if we had like 100,000 people doing this, suddenly we have a lot of money. And so, yeah, one way is to go towards the whales, and the other one is to go towards community. So both have challenges, and yeah, I tend to like the second one most, to go to the community. But anyway, that's a tough question. Another question by Ash on mass invitation. You mentioned seeds took the path as invite only rather than airdropping money trees. This was primarily to reduce the chances of mass hacking. Does that mean we should not be mass advertising seeds? Rephrasing. Is YouTube advertising funded by people who want to fund them? A bad idea? Yeah, so the idea of having what we call invite campaigns on seeds is an attempt on that, to a kind of a money tree, a kind of airdropping in a way, because then we can create an invite campaign for, I don't know, 300,000 seeds to pay, I don't know, 100 seeds per person. And then you have a lot of invites, and you can plug that into your website, and people can just go there and click and join seeds and get some seeds. So that's a way to mass advertise and bring people into seeds. So if say 100 websites will do that with 3,000 invitations of 100 seeds, well, we would suddenly have almost 1 million users in very few time. So it should be doable with invite campaigns. So, and that was one of the directions Seeds is going to, and the governance referendum that passed was also towards that, and I think it's a good idea. Miguel, I see Guy Bigorna with not sure it is quality clicks though. Yeah, that's the problem too, right? Because we don't know who is going to be registering on these websites, so they could be hacking. So whenever we open too wide, we get more vulnerable. And I mean, it's a way to grow, but also a way to attract freeloaders. And Miguel, we had an experiment with bringing seeds token to the open market crypto exchanges. What have been the main learning lesson with that experiment? Yeah, that's a good one too. So there were many lessons we learned, and especially when we go to a crypto exchange like this, we are exposing ourselves a lot, and we need to have a lot of security in what we're doing, because the kind of move that we saw there with Haifa presenting almost $500,000 on liquidity, and then suddenly, because one or two players decided to just move money to there without actually selling seeds, Haifa just decided to take away almost all the liquidity. So, and that was showing to the markets that, in a way, that Haifa can't be trusted, right? Because if someone just decides to show up and say, I want to sell this much, and then we don't know if Haifa is going to take the liquidity or not. So it's a display of, in a way, lack of maturity in the token ecosystem. So in order to go to exchanges, it can be, in my opinion, it can be in two ways. Either you go right from the start and then start selling small quantities and see the token growing gently, or you go after the token reaches a maturity point where you say, now it's mature, we want to really reach the big stakes. And because when you get to exchanges, you are open yourself to whales as well. So people with millions of Bitcoin millions of Bitcoin is too much, millions of dollars in Bitcoin can come about and buy and sell your token. So it's risky. It's almost when you decide to open your company on an exchange, right? You do an IPO. It's opening up to big investor companies like BlackRock and these big guys with a lot of money, and they decide to buy a significant portion of your company, and suddenly they decide to call the shots. So it's risky, even though selling a token is different, because you're not selling your company, you're just selling part of your ecosystem purchasing power or utility power. And because I didn't say this in the presentation, the different kinds of tokens that we have. Well, I should have added that, but we have basically two main types, what we call utility token. And a utility token is a token that you use to actually do stuff in the ecosystem. You want to trade the token. You want to be using it all the time. For instance, suppose you want to use Uber, for instance. There was a Uber token that you can use to buy your rides with it. So that's a classic example of a utility token. So it's a token that you have to use in order to use the ecosystem. And then you have what we call the equity token. And the equity token is more like bonds or shares in a stock market. So they represent the ownership of a company. For instance, if you do work for Haifa, you end up receiving Haifa tokens. They resemble more like equity tokens because they are in a way, part of Haifa capital. And they tend to valuate as much as Haifa is valuating. So the difference is that you don't get to call the shots with Haifa tokens, but you do have that with the voice token, the Haifa voice token. And that's a third type of token. It's a governance token. So you usually have these three kinds of token: the utility, equity, and governance token. So there are other tokens as well. We have one that's becoming famous right now is the non-fungible token or NFT. Well, that's another completely different conversation, but basically an NFT is like a certificate of authenticity of this thing that you own. So I own this car. I have this NFT that proves to the world that this is mine. So it's basically, and this one is non-fungible. What is fungible? If I have a coin, 10 cents coin, and I put that into a bag of 1,000 10 cents coin, I will never find my coin again. It melds into the bag. You know, I can take any other coin and they're all the same in essence, right? So this is a fungible token. A non-fungible token, like the certificate for that car that I own, I can't put that into a bag of certificates of different cars because they will be different. So they won't merge into that. That's what a non-fungible token is. So, and then of course you also have reputation tokens that represent how you behave in a system as well, and they should not be transferable. Otherwise, they are not good reputation carriers. Because if I develop 2 years reputation in seeds and then I decide to sell my reputation to Guy, and then wow, now Guy has 2 years reputation. No, this can't be done. Otherwise, it's not a good reputation system, right? So it's also another possibility. So there are many uses for tokens. They are really cool for game designers. So let's see any other questions here. Is the withdrawal liquidity still available and could possibly use for controlled prosperity pools that support pilot projects? Yeah, so that currently the Haifa funds are transparent. They are shared on all open collective sensing calls on Haifa. I can share the spreadsheet with the link that shows the current cash on hand for Haifa. And well, it has diminished from that moment to now. And that's one of the reasons why Haifa is looking for more investment. And so there are still some funds left, but they are mainly used now for keeping key people into the close to the company, so we can endure this this migration, this new round of funding. So I don't think it should be available for prosperity pools at this point. At a time when Bitcoin suddenly exploded in price, I remember last year when I joined Haifa, we had about 1 million USD in cash. And then we could run for like 6 months or 8 months. And then almost, I think it was June or July, Bitcoin zoomed up incredibly. So we got almost 2.5 million USD in cash. I mean, cash was Bitcoin mostly and other currencies. But then Bitcoin dropped again. So we suddenly get less than 800,000. And now I think it's less than 300,000 or something. So it fluctuates, right? Crypto. Another question from Guy. Do you think Seeds is going to fork now? The governance referendum didn't pass. Oh, you mean the economics referendum, right? Yeah, okay. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. So I know that we are kind of taking a break. Mark is taking a break with his family now, and we spent a lot of energy on this referendum, and we didn't have the energy to put another one for this cycle that runs until January. So I don't think it's going to fork, because forking also would take a lot of energy from Haifa, and Haifa doesn't have a lot of energy right now to be doing mass significant code changes like this in such a brief time. So I believe there will be another economic referendum soon with new ideas. We are having, one of the issues is that the economic referendum group didn't include Reiki. I don't know exactly why, and we kind of tried to include him, but he wasn't very much available. So, and then we kind of lost his wisdom in there. So that was significant. And so this new group should also include, well, Reiki and probably Guy as well, because Guy was one of the most influential voices with great wisdom, also explaining why we shouldn't go that way. And we are, as soon as we are resuming work on that, Guy, expect an invitation. Going to probably, because, you know, we don't believe, I don't believe in forking Seeds, because the strain that we put in the community. So I don't think we are mature enough to endure that at this point. So it's better, and Seeds is so easy to fix right now. I mean, the Seeds contracts are, we don't have miners, you know, and that's a great thing, you know, because if we had miners, we would be in a tough spot. Because, for instance, if Bitcoin wants to change the code, one line of code, you have to convince thousands of miners to upgrade. Otherwise, the new version doesn't run, it's not mined. But in our case, we run the node, and this node is synced to the rest of the Telos blockchain. So if we decide to upgrade the code on the node, suddenly it's upgraded. So the only thing we can't do right now on Seeds is to change people's balances. But we can change the code freely, almost freely. So we have a lot of freedom. We don't need to fork, in my opinion. So the only reason for a fork would be to get the money that people got from campaigns. And because I think Reiki is very worried about that. That is detracting value from Seeds. We have almost 800 million seeds that was given, some of that deferred seeds, some of that liquid seeds. And if we don't care about the seeds, they could have some impact. But the amount of liquid seeds is about 120 million seeds. That's less than 3% of the whole seeds in the supply. So I don't think it's enough for a fork. Even if that money was stolen, which is not the case, some of the projects are really doing great stuff. I mean, there are only 2 or 3 projects that are really doing, you know, causing problems. And if that's like 3 or 4 million seeds, what is that compared to the whole supply? I mean, is that justifying a fork? Not in my view. So, but there are other reasons. Maybe Reiki has other reasons for that as well, but I don't know. So yeah, this is probably going to keep, the discussion is going to continue in the beginning next year to see what is the future of seeds. For me, the problem is right now, seeds is kind of frozen. It's kind of in the limbo. No one really knows what's going to happen. And this is bad for the community reputation and trust in the currency. But the kind of decision making that we opted for seeds based on consensus voting is slow, right? So maybe we do have to move slow. So yeah. Another question on backend. Tokenomics just bringing opportunistic now. Can we include bulk invites for organizations? Imagine a company asking 300 employees each link. This can be worked with a single link where you wanna. Yeah, okay, Ash, there is a project for that. Actually, Apostle is working on that together with Haifa to create an invite website that allows people to kind of click and generate their own link. Super easy. You don't have to provide your phone number. You just click, and the link can be used. The QR code can be used multiple times. So actually a controlled number of times, like 10 times. You can create a QR code that's usable. So there is a project for that to improve the way we do onboarding. Justin with a question, a pretty thrown together folder of seeds, Haifa, and other DAO tech decks and tools. Oh, thanks, Justin. Nice. So that's what I had for today. I'd like to thank you everyone for staying until this time. And if you have more questions or comments regarding token design or tokenomics, you can message me, or we can organize other talks specifically on the game guide if you have questions too. What I can do now is to show the Trello board, and we can pick another topic for next week. I see two hands. Guy, you want to go?
I think Justin was before me, actually.
Okay, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So, I mean, I have like very, well, no, I have like conceptual kind of questions, but I wondered if you'd be willing to like, if you'd be willing to like riff on it a little bit with me. Is it okay? For like, all right, cool.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So one thing I brought up last week in the economics referendum talk, but I wonder how you see it in this kind of space where, with like the Villabamba and let's say with like permatours, or these kind of, or let's say even Zimbabwe with Lori's kind of these local pilots that are pretty up and running. They already have, let's say, either seeds integrated, or they have some type of regenerative style tokenomics in place, right? They have some kind of, like with Lori, they have a reward system. Right now it's all a spreadsheet, but they have pretty much a lot of it designed. But it's not integrated with seeds, even though they have people onboarding onto the platform, right? There's kind of a disconnect between the hyperlocal and that global social. Or Villabamba, that's kind of actively using seeds, right? But they're not really able to use it well because of the nature of the kind of liquidity freeze. Is that I know that problem I struggle less, but they have these kind of. I brought up the idea that if we already had the seeds is already an open source set of smart contracts. If someone could help to implement that, like the seeds at a local level, and then take time to build a contract that then bridges it to the global kind of liquidity as it grows or not, would that be a possible solution space worth exploring, where you're using the same kind of source code, right? So technically it's still seeds. It's not rainbow seeds, it's literally seeds, but then you're just having to find a way to bridge what's happening in that local market or local pilot to the global system. I was wondering how if that makes sense to you, and is that a viable pathway for someone like a Chuck or an Ash or yourself, who are already kind of like playing with, you guys are already building solutions, and even I left out Brazil, but I don't mean to leave out Brazil at all, because I know that you guys are kind of also a thriving ecosystem of value exchange So I wonder how if that even makes sense what I'm saying, and also how doable that is as a way to kind of start to solve the economic referendums or move toward the economic referendum or reform without needing it to pass.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Justin. So in terms of starting another seed based on the same source code, it's totally possible. I mean, the code is there, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy, because it's not just about, downloading and running. You have to really deploy the contract code, and then you have to create a new version of the wallet that connects to that token. So it takes some kind of technical knowledge to do. It's not too hard, but it's hard, and it takes some energy and someone to actually take the front on that. I know about Chuck Harrison's effort on the rainbow seeds, and the rainbow seeds is one possible solution for these local pilot problems and liquidity with seeds. And the problem is, if the rainbow seeds are backed in seeds, and seeds is not being stable right now, then it's kind of hard to convince people, okay, we are creating a new currency backed on a currency that we don't know how it's going. So who is backing who? I remember I read something like that on I don't know if it was Guy that wrote, so or Mark. So if we create a common seeds or a seeds backed on, like a rainbow seeds backed on seeds, and that seeds become more seeds become more reliable than actual seeds. So who is going to back who? And that's the chicken and the egg problem. But I saw in the chat that Ash wants to answer that as well. So if you have any other comments,
Yeah.
please.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, guys. Yes. So the other problem that people in Zimbabwe so I'm working with Laurie as well, to create some sort of a low-tech platform where they can integrate with seeds. But the problem with people on the ground is that they don't have access to technology. So even if we were to replicate code, it can't be used with people because they either don't have smartphones, or they have a smartphone but they don't have a data plan, or they have like a WhatsApp plan where they can do things. So which is where I'm trying to work. So again, it's work in progress. It may take a couple of months, but there are these issues because of which you can't really replicate seeds. Of course, with Zimbabwe, I think they're waiting on where seeds are going and how they can probably use rainbow tokens eventually. But in terms of technology, it has to be something which is very low end. Yeah, that's where they are at the moment. So they're basically waiting on two things. One is a low end technology that I'm working on with Chuck, and second is of course where seeds are going. And what's happening with rainbows. Yeah, that's where things are there.
I would say, Ashley, I love how you guys are moving with the sprinkles as well. I think that's such a beautiful concept. I don't know if everyone's been watching that, but I think it's so cool. And I think I just want to say too that I think I lumped in a bunch of different pilots together, and I think that's very true to say they're all different. I know, like a Villabamba though, they have money, right? And so and they have technology, and so they're a very different kind of premium seeds use case in a way, where maybe the question is less like, where does liquidity come from? Well, it probably comes from the people who are who are already there, and then where does the access to tech is all there. So they're much more of a premium kind of a place to not a premium sounds it sounds kind of like a bad thing to say, but I want to say that I made a mistake by lumping those two together, or bringing those together because they're very different use cases, but both very dire needs, I guess, in some way. Yeah.
Thanks, Justin. So the next one I have is Guy. You have questions?
I'm sorry. I just raised my hand because I wanted to say something in reply to the thing that just happened. Is that okay, Guy?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because sorry, I couldn't join earlier. I was anyway. In Vilcabamba, there really are two sides to that market. One is people who, there's a kind of like a gringo market where people have money and they mostly have smartphones. But the group there really wants to include a much wider local community. And unless we have a low-tech solution like you're talking about, we can't do that either. So I'll be in touch with, I'll actually put you in touch with the people in Vilcabamba, because I think that a parallel project for low-tech solution is really, really needed there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So Guy, what is the question that you bring?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Brett Scott article, Julio, about unboxing seeds. Did you see that?
I didn't read it, the whole version of it, but I saw the first part.
So I'll just read a little bit of it out. I'd just be interested to hear everybody's thoughts, particularly your thoughts. One of the most chaotic elements of the seeds system right now relates to the fact that projects that get allocated tokens to support their projects have to sell the tokens, but there is no clear way for them to know what the price is or why that price is what it is. And then later on it says, in reality, neither the market nor the Haifa team knows what the token should be worth because they are blank tokens that resist any formal valuation analysis. Seeds token holders can move the blank tokens between each other, but there is no native service on the Seeds network that can yet account for why that is useful. If there were specific things unique to the Seeds network that could not be accessed elsewhere, then perhaps the token might be seen as an access token for those, but that is not the case. So I think that's a good analysis, because we had the same problem in Faircoin, that we're saying it's fair coin, and then people would say, why is it fair? Okay, so when we started, it was fair because we had a much more ecologically sustainable blockchain than Bitcoin or Ethereum, because there was only like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, there was a few other shit coins, but like they were all using like, a few were proof of stake, but that also, proof of stake also increases inequality. So we were like fair coin because we were like not increasing inequality because it wasn't proof of stake. And then we also weren't like burning loads of electricity. It wasn't proof of work. So then we would say that, but really, they're just blank tokens and they're not fair at all. We had people doing all kinds of things with it that were not at all fair. And I think the same thing is true, as Brett Scott's pointing out, that we're trying to do regenerative projects, but it's really just an intention. The token's not actually linked to anything regenerative. And as he says later on in the article, you could just as easily buy a gun with seeds as you could plant trees. Of course, that's true of any currency. But I think it would probably be useful to actually back the seeds token, because this comes into like backing rainbow seeds with seeds. If we don't know what the value of seeds is, what's the point of backing something else with it? We don't, it's just, you're just backing one thing that doesn't have a value with another thing with no value. It's not even no value. It just doesn't have like a value intrinsic to it. I'm not saying they're worthless. They're worth whatever people decide they are. But it's a tricky one, and I think it could be solved by actually backing a seed with trees planted or ocean waste cleaned up or this kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
What do you think?
Thank you for bringing that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And actually, when I did this currency design course with the meta currency guys and Arthur Brock, they talked about asset-backed currencies. So currencies backed on real world assets, for instance, water currency, or food currency, or the tree currency. I don't know. So the actual currency is becomes like an utility token that you can use to buy one specific kind of asset, mainly, right? Of course, you can use water tokens to buy bread. If you have too much water tokens, why not? And if the bread selling guy accepts water tokens, you can do that. But you can always use the water tokens to buy water. So then it becomes much more tangible. Because right now the US dollar is like this, it's like a currency that buys whatever, the planet, And what is it backed on what? Is it actually backed on slave work? And it's backed on the destruction of the ecosystem, and it's backed on, everything that we don't like. So, and then we want to back seeds on the US dollar. We want seeds to become one USD. So what is proof of violence? Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so do we really want to back seeds on this thing? And that makes a lot of sense. So maybe that could be a direction. Actually, seeds has some intrinsic tokenomics that tends towards regeneration. That there is the scores and the harvest. The harvest is the only thing that makes seeds tending towards regeneration, because if it's just a currency, then of course backed on USD, then it's another shit coin. But the thing is, the harvest is creating seeds for projects, and they are distributing those seeds in buckets for regions, for projects, for global, for people. And so there's 4 buckets. The idea is that they are used, and the more regenerative you are, the more is your regenerative score. The more engaged you are as a citizen, the more seeds you get. So in a way, it rewards the community building and regenerative work by design. So this is different from just one regular currency. But I still agree that if it was backed on some service or product that could allow people to, then it would be much easier to price seeds. And yeah, makes a lot of sense. So it would change the token design a bit, but especially if this amount of service is limitless, that's where mutual currencies starts to shine as well, because you can go into the negative. Yeah, it's a lot to explore in that direction, but I don't think today is enough time for that. Any other questions before we go quickly over to the Trello board?
Maybe one conceptual. Another, it's in line with what you're saying. So what I noticed that you kind of mentioned unlimited natural resources, not unlimited, but like resource-backed, asset-backed kind of token design, and using so based on natural resources. And the thing that I noticed in seeds is the most abundant and most maybe underrepresented natural resource is human time and talent. Because people give so much time and so much talent and so much energy, and there's actually even though we have seeds to exchange, seeds aren't exchanged based off of what you're giving. Like, this talk is amazing and you're great, but there's no way I can give gratitude tokens. That's one example of it, but it's actually that there's a slight differentiation between the fact that you put so much time, energy, and effort, and that can be measured or honored, and then me saying like, hey, I'm grateful for what you've done because it's meaningful, and it is, so I bring that layer in there, because if you think about who's here, a lot of people who are here are highly intelligent, highly skilled, maybe even mostly physical first, but digital second, but learning to be digital first, kind of freelancing. But I don't know, we have this whole workforce that's looking to do things and isn't really compensated for that, and also isn't really recognized for the work that they do, because it's not really what we're focusing on. And I just think that the natural asset that we have in plenty, and that's kind of being not regeneratively used, is our people. And I wonder what that, I wonder what that looks like, and I wonder how that can be properly honored, because it's not a time bank, right? It's something very different than that. It's really a workforce ecosystem of like permaculture hippies. That's not accurate at all. But also it's not accurate. According to, okay, I'm done now. That's my.
Yeah, that's another venue. I mean, to go over and use the time as the backing for a token. I had some experience with that in the past as well. In myself personally, I don't like it too much, because I think the time people put into efforts into projects is so much different. And if you start to value people's skills, then it's a whole nother thing. So I really don't like the time banking idea too much. I had, especially because some people also don't have access to providing services. For instance, how do we carry the people with that are not capable to provide services? So, for instance, so the elders or diseased people, sick people. So how these people that can't provide services, how are they getting currency? So there's a whole lot of discussion in this other way. And also the time is also not limited, because more people can be born and people can use more time. So it's also another unlimited supply of resource. So anyway, we do have 12 minutes, and I'd like to honor these last few minutes to go through the Trello board. Thank you all for your contributions. It was an amazing discussion and very deep. I'd love to continue some other time. Maybe we can do another round if you want to focus on some specific subject on tokenomics. For instance, designing a new version of seeds as a mutual currency could be a subject for the future. And if you want to propose topics for this space, we have this link here. That is the Trello board. If you're not in the board yet, you can click on the first post. It has a link to be invited into the board. If you click the link, let me share my screen briefly. So if you click this first post here, there is a link here that you can click in order to be able to post on the board. So we have some topics. The one on architecture of tokenomics is already done, and we can schedule the one for next week. So we have 3 by Apostle, and Apostle is not here. We have 1 by Billy. Alicia is also not on the call. Anyone has any request or offer that would like to add to the board? It's not here on the board yet.
Yeah, maybe shortly I can say, but maybe I also find a way to access then the board personally. So one thing that I feel definitely worth diving much deeper into is what now has been mentioned. How do we want to back up our crypto token? Do we want to do that with, as you mentioned, natural assets, another cryptocurrency, US dollar, other fiat, whatever? So this is definitely something I would like to propose to dive into as a subject more deeply.
Do you want to offer this, or do you want someone else to organize it?
Well, I will see how I can get access to the Trello board. I will try to figure that out after the call. and then I can.
I can create the card for you right
Yeah?
now if you
Okay,
want.
thank you. Yeah,
Is it
sure.
is
Go
it a
ahead.
request or an offer? So request is something that you want someone else to organize, and an offer is that something that you want to organize and to bring and to present.
In that,
And then
yeah, in that case would be a request, because it's not something I feel very much knowledgeable about.
okay, so how do you want to call it? Token
Token
backing, token
backing, yeah.
backing.
Mhm.
Token backing discussion. Is that fine?
Yeah. Or deep dive, yeah, whatever. That's
Okay.
fine.
Deep dive. That's good.
Yeah, and then we have right now also, like from Guy, like one idea that instead of natural assets or currencies, that it could be backed up by regenerative actions. I find that also worth, maybe if we can add that, it's not being forgotten. And another thing that Justin proposed, if I translate that correctly, the creative time and effort put into the ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right. So then, if you want to join the board, you can also vote. In order to vote, you just click on the card, and then you have to click vote. In English, it's going to be vote, but since mine is in Portuguese, so I vote for this one, for instance. Now it has one vote. And then the most voted ones are selected every week. So the one we have here is, can we tokenize the externalities that capitalism generates? It's by Apostle. And the idea is that an exploration of how to tokenize the externalities of capitalism. So since that's the most voted one we have right now, I'm going to schedule it for next week and check with Apostle if he's available. Next week is the 14th, December 14th. So I'm going to schedule it for the 14th. And unless anyone has other ideas or presenting any other cards, or wants to vote differently, how is that for you?
That's cool. I wonder if the externalities. So right now it has like a negative kind of. It's not true, but like there's positive externalities and negative externalities, and I can't tell which way Apostle's leaning. But I do wonder if so negative, definitely negative externalities. And so I wondered with the idea of like trying to figure out what values here in the ecosystem that could be tokenized in a way without being commoditized, something like that, and then looking at externalities. Is there a way that we could maybe to make that more altruistic, or if can we have that as a request so we can look at the value that's here, not necessarily the damage that we're doing or going to do, because that's I think it'll just be more aligned with what I heard this conversation going towards.
Yeah, from what I hear in the card, the idea is that he's tackling the negative externalities like pollution, deforestation, because most of the capitalistic organizations, they want to focus on profit. And in order to get the profits, they tend to not care about the ecosystem too much, unless there is real impact on their own business, for instance, a tax or a government rule, so, and they tend to do the least they can in order to have the most profit. So unless there is a tight regulation, they won't do anything. So that's what I think he calls externalities anyway. So that's one thing that's scheduled for next week, unless people have other ideas and decide to vote. If you have more ideas for stuff to be brought to this space, please add cards. And if you like some of the cards, please vote on them. And yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions, comments, final thoughts?
You the best.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Guy, Miguel, John,
Thanks.
Irina, Ash, everyone for being here.
Thanks, Julio.
And sharing your
Yeah.
energy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.